Yeah, the thing that came out of that, oh, hang on. Right. So out of these workshops came these concerns. Now instead of, this is a different way of operating. What we're doing is reacting to the concerns. And the concerns that were raised at these workshops were that if the largest areas of our TEZs, our landscapes, are on TSRs, who's going to manage them, given the political situation of TSRs? And we had a really good ranger along who'd actually done a study in the Warrialga area of all TSRs in 2000, so he was well ahead of lots of other people, and he could see the problems. The LHPAs in our area were asked to prioritise their TSRs in terms of economic value, that's grazing income. That meant that some would be heavily grazed, particularly the ones that we're targeting, like the mile and the natural grasslands, and others would drop off in terms of management, like semi-evergreen vine thicket, and probably brigalow because it's thicker. And that, I didn't show you the box gum grassy woodland because it wasn't in our area, but we did hold those snakes and ladders workshops in the slopes and tablelands as well. And that the box gum grassy woodland was a threatened ecological community, not because there weren't any trees, but because the ground cover had mostly gone to cooler-type grass. So cooler-type grass became a real focus for what we needed to do. And it was a grave fear that we're on the edge of another wave of extinctions, and that was from Phil. Really concerned. So Dave and I looked at each other and said, well, this is too big for us. What can we do about this? And he said, well, Greening Australia can't do anything. I said, CMA can't do anything in terms of political manoeuvring, but we can act as a facilitator. Right, so we put together a forum of stakeholders. The first stakeholder meeting was held at Mile Creek, not far from the Mile Creek massacre site, and not far from a Mile site that was surrounded by cooler-type. So there were council people there were a whole range of people. And there's, again, a report in the pack if anybody's interested. One interesting thing after going out and having a look at the site, one of the town planners with the Gwyde Inverell Shire Council said, bloody hell, you know, this was the issue. This was the species that were we didn't even do a veg survey, but that we just, one of the DEXICON-D afterwards put together. And there were 3 threatened species. And the town planner said, 1 road upgrade and that would have gone. It's just grasses as far as we're concerned. The mile, yes, we'd leave that, but the ground cover would be gone. So this is one issue, going from a diverse ground cover to a monoculture and the impact on everything else. RTA was there as well, so they actually contributed this later on. They'd done some mapping from Gundawindi at the top to Coonabarabran and Cooler-Tie grass all along the Newell Highway. Johnson's grass along the highway. Another issue, Cooler-Tie grass coming from the highway. Cooler-Tie grass hasn't reached us except in some roads where it started to spread from the highway, mainly to do with slashing by councils. So that's a major threat. The major threats are grazing on TSRs, and it's not just general grazing. What they'll be doing is putting up electric tapes for local landholders to utilise it, so it gets trashed. And even landholders that actually don't have people that have stock but don't have land use the TSRs on a permanent basis, just moving water around. So what we decided to do was put together then we held a second forum. So this is stage 5. So this is 5th of March. This has all happened since November last year. We had to get our Caring for Country competitive bidding very fast. CMA didn't have the staff to do it, so Greening Australia acted as the leading agency. The other thing that was really apparent is that councils over the last 10 years have dropped off their environmental officers and their focus on environmental issues and are way behind in terms of threatened communities. And they saw this as an opportunity of upgrading their knowledge and their skill, and also understanding what they need to do with their roadsides. They were really on board. We had some really good support from councils. 3 LHPAs were right on side and across 3 CMAs. So it's a big area. And so, I don't know whether I missed a slide there or not. No, from that process we put the proposal in. It hasn't been successful, unfortunately, and we decided that in that last slide we would rebadge it. Greening Australia is rebadging it to see whether we can find some other funding. It's such a brilliant project. Meanwhile, we decided that BRG could actually run a pilot project. So this is where we are. We're back in the Milliboggy area, and this is the map that was provided by DEC on the TSRs with their biodiversity values. There's better maps. I mean, you can have a closer look at that. They're out of scale because they're only very small linear areas, thin areas, but as you can see, these have come up of high value in these areas, red. So we had something to work with. Doesn't give you TECs, but it does give you biodiversity value. So this was the project that we decided we could use as a pilot project. Here you'll see Edgeroy. If anybody knows the Newell Highway, Edgeroy, Balatta, Gurley. So out of that project, out of the workshops, the ladders, Snakes and Ladders workshop, Dave Carr was contracted to write some threats and management documents for each of the TECs, and he was also contracted to do a quick and dirty survey of our priority subcatchment areas to look at possible sites to be able to do pilot projects in. I was the only one that had some money to be able to do it. The others were tied to soil works and riparian works and were already committed. So last year I was able to commit 51,000 of my budget to this project. So we ended up with 805 hectares. It's a pretty good outcome. A really collaborative project. So the sweeping mile, natural grasslands, and a little bit of brigalow. The process, because we had lands, because we had the stakeholder meeting, Lands Department said that they thought that they could actually do something that would facilitate this process. LHPAs needed some income foregone, otherwise they wouldn't be in it, and they needed some enticement to start as a pilot project, even though they're really on side. So the process has been, Lands have developed a layer of reserves for conservation that will be gazetted. And there's a document in there from the Lands Department, and Lands have already gazetted more than these areas. We picked out the most critical areas in the Milliboggy Gurley area anyway to start with. The Border Rivers Guarda has a contract with the Lands Department because LHPAs can't sign long-term contracts. They don't have the longevity to be able to do it. So the contract is with Lands. The funds go to Lands for them to devolve to LHPA for management. Then there's a memorandum of understanding with LHPA and Lands that repeat our management actions. So we get better grazing management of grasses, and also pest animals through LHPA's programs. And also the LHPA will be working collaboratively with Narrabri Shire and Moree Shire Council. 5 minutes. The next part of the process was some community awareness. So these were signs that were developed to go up on the highways. We also developed our bird route. We've done some bird surveying on, but that's still to come. So these are the signs in situ, and it's made a difference already. One of the local landholders said, "Oh, I took my kids out and told them this tree is really important." And so another landholder said, "What's this importance about mild? You know, they're just scraggy trees, you know." So it's made a big difference already. Some landholders I thought we were going to get criticised by, but they're really keen on the fact that it's going to be managed and not trashed. So all up, these signs have already started to make an impact. These were the blowers. This is an old blower, but as an example of what we were paying to put on slashes. And the blower was to keep the seed on site and not spread it along the roadsides. And we also we haven't implemented this, but to use Greening Australia's EnviroMark, which is being used, I think, in either Central West or Lachlan, CMA, and all across Tasmania. But we have to work with the councils to work out what colour marker we use, this circle down the bottom, the marker on the side of the road, and what we're actually using, where we place them. So that anybody managing the side of the road can actually identify where they need to be careful, and also it identifies where the spread has got to as well. So then we did our startup project, and this was just in July. So we started this project up, and it was also an opportunity to devolve information about the MEC project and the BRG funding for this year. This is just a flyer. It looks very busy. It's a fold flyer that went out in the mail, and on the back of it is the program. Lots of things, biocontrols of weeds, all sorts of things that were happening, trying to get a combination of landholder and stakeholder involvement. A brilliant pest manager from Bathurst, who has a business managing shooting, actually. Fantastic shooter, foxes. Just brilliant. And we'll get him up and contract him. On the field site, and this is the new blower in action as a demonstration on the Narrabri Shire slasher, and Phil Spark with a 5-clawed worm skink. Chris Nadolny has been involved because he's done a lot of work on Coolatai. There's a Coolatai report that was done by DEC that's on the report, managing Coolatai. And an update of results. Narrabri has done a wonderful job at slashing, very clean and wider than the band of Coolatai in most places, although on the right-hand side you can just see the edges. It was a dull day, although it looks very bright. It might be my camera. You can still see Coolatai along there, but what LHPA is going to come and do is spray that outside the band, and they'll continue. Coolatai stays in the seed bank for 2 years. It's not a long-living seed. The viability is not long-lived, so if we manage it really intensely for the first 2 or 3 years, we should be able to manage the spread. So the next steps are interpretation signs at the TEC sites. We haven't done that yet. We tried just to get the highway signs up, and developing bird route and bird monitoring. Working with RTA, they've given us a bit of money for an offset. They've, in one of their upgrades on their roadsides, there was some semi-evergreen vine thicket understories, so we're working with the Ballata School, who have got a few semi-evergreen vine thicket understory species on a block next to the school that they want to work with. They're helping come and collect tiger pear, which is an invasion in the site that's on the highway. So there's a collaboration there, and we'll collect seed. And the BRG CMA also has a seed supply strategy to collect seed for TEC. I've got a presentation to do at the RTA to convince them they need to put blowers on their slashes on the highway, and they're on the side, but we've just got to convince the people that pay the money. And 2010-11 will be another way of extending this project. The expected results and outcomes are ongoing collaboration with all of these or groups of these organisations. So it's a way of, we have difficulty getting landholders involved, but if they see this collaboration, we can add to it. So that's the way we're trying to go. If the TECs are on the TSRs, there are other adjacent bits of vegetation that we're working on, and the groups around them to manage particularly feral animals. As there's no Coolatai, but boxthorn, we'll be employing a boxthorn sprayer as well.